Hello chess friends and welcome to the channel. Today is day 1 at the Fischer Random World Championship 2019. We are in the semifinals. Magnus Carlsen plays against Caruana and Nepomniachtchi against Wesley So. The format is a knockout and it's a mix of long and fast rapid games and blitz games. In day 1 and day 2 they will play 4 games with 45 minutes on the clock, and in the third day 4 games with 15 minutes on the clock plus other 4 games that they will be 3 minutes blitz games. The first game that we are going to watch together is Magnus Carlsen against Fabiano Caruana. Let's get started. Carlsen with the white pieces opens with d4, f6, e4, so controlling the center, and here comes d5, f3, protecting the pawn, c6, bishop to g3, and this bishop, of course, is watching the bishop on b8. Black is almost forced to change the bishop because if not, it will be Carlsen to capture here on b8, and Caruana won't be able to castle long. That it seems the easiest of the two castling choices. So here comes bishop captures on g3, the knight recaptures, and knight to e6. E captures on d5, the c-pawn recaptures, and here comes c4. With long castle, and you notice that the king and the rook will always be in the classical castling position, so this king doesn't need to move in this position. So after long castle, the rook is now protecting the pawn. Knight to c3, a new piece attacking d5. So knight back to c7, and here comes queen to e3. The queen is attacking e7. Caruana captures with the pawn on c4, and Carlsen captures with the queen on e7. Knight to g6 comes with tempo against the queen. Bishop to f5 with check first. The king can't move away or is checkmating one because the king is protecting the rook. So here comes the only possible move, that is bishop to d7. Queen back to e4, so the queen and the bishop are attacking g6. Queen to f7, and short castle for white. This is the longest short castle that I ever seen. Rook to e8 attacking the queen. Queen to g4 and king to b8. This is a good move. The game is more or less equal. Just that Carlsen has an isolated d-pawn that is also a pass pawn. So rook in the center, rook in f goes to e1, bishop to c6, also controlling the square in front of the pass pawn. Second rook moves to d1, rook captures on e1 with check is good, so Carlsen must recapture with the rook, and the rook is not behind the pass pawn anymore. Here comes knight back to e7, a new control on d5, also attacking the bishop. This position, probably bishop to e6 is the best idea, even if probably black will capture the bishop, but black doesn't have the bishop pair, so the game will be equal. Instead, here comes d5, and this is an active move, but probably an inaccuracy. With bishop captures on d5, also protecting the pawn, here comes knight captures, queen captures on d5, and now black is better because the queen is strong in the center of the board, and there are also checking possibilities. What to do? Not so simple. Here comes bishop captures on h7, and with g6, Caruana is trapping this bishop. Doesn't seem simple to capture this bishop yet, but this bishop is trapped. Now queen to e4, trying to exchange the queens, but here comes queen to c5 with check, and king to h1 is the best move. f5 attacking the queen, queen to h4 protecting the bishop, and here comes rook to d7 indirectly attacking this bishop. Let's go back some moves because I forgot to show you something. After bishop captures on h7, we said that here comes g6, closing the way back for this bishop. After queen to e4, what happens if instead of queen to e4, here comes bishop captures on g6 with the bishop protected by the queen? It happens that Caruana will bring also the queen on the dark squares, queen to c5 with check, king to h1, Now queen to b4, another tempo move because the rook is under attack. Rook to b1 protecting b2, but here comes rook to g8. The bishop is pinned to the queen, and this is more or less game over. So let's go back to our game. We said instead of capturing, of course, Carlsen tries to change the queen. Queen to c5, we check. King to h1, here comes f5, attacking the queen. Queen to h4, from where the queen is protecting the bishop. Now rook to d7, with the rook indirectly attacking this bishop on h7. Queen to h6, now it seems that it's possible to play bishop captures on g6. But here comes a beautiful move, queen to e5, and Carlsen can't capture the queen because the king is in the corner, and white, of course, has the back rank problem. So, queen back to c1, protecting the rook. Here comes queen to g7, also controlling this square so that the queen can't move back to protect the bishop. The bishop is trapped and is lost. So now, better than nothing. Here comes bishop captures on g6. The queen recaptures on g6 and queen captures on c4. So 2 pawns for 1 bishop. a6, queen to f4, watching both f5 and pinning the knight, but this is not a great threat because everything is well defended. Queen to e6, same idea. Again, the rook can't capture, or rook to d1 will lead to checkmate. Here comes queen to b4, protecting the rook, also protecting e1. And queen captures on e2, knight captures on f5. Now it's not possible to capture this knight because if knight captures on f5, the queen will give check and will fork the knight, also with tempo against the rook. Of course, black is still a bit better, but there is a bit more compensation for white. So let's go back to our game. After knight capture on f5, Caruana doesn't capture the knight because he's useless. He continues with knight in c, goes to d5, attacking the queen. Queen to d4. Now, not only is not a good idea to capture this knight, but also a losing idea because the rook will give check and it's almost checkmate. It's plus 5 or 6 for white. So here comes queen to a5, protecting the knight and attacking the rook. Queen to e5 we check, queen to c7, knight captures on e7, and rook captures on e7, attacking the queen and also the rook behind the queen. So Magnus Carlsen must move away the queen with tempo. Queen to h8 we check, king to a7, queen to d4 we check, queen to b6, and now white is forced to exchange some pieces. Queen captures on b6 we check, the king recaptures, rook captures on e7 we check, and the knight recaptures. Is it possible, to hold this endgame? It seems impossible. Let's watch what happens. g4, because of course the only counterplay for white is on the king side, and here comes king to c5. King to g2, a5, h4, and a4. f4 now, b5, and this is the right idea because with b4 and a3, this pawn will advance and promote to queen. Here comes f5. Caruana continues in this position with an okay move that is queen to d6, but there is an elegant solution that wins the game almost on the spot. Let's go back one move. After f5, it's possible to sacrifice the knight on the pawn. Let's watch what happens. With knight captures on f5 and g captures on f5, here comes king to d6, and now if we draw the square to understand if the king can come and reach these pawns, we notice that the white king is really far. Even after the loss of time before, the king will never reach the a pawn. So in this position, what happens? If king to f3, here comes b4, king to e3, a3, b captures, king to d3, and the pawn will promote to queen. And what happens if now white will advance with his pawns? If h5, here comes king to e5 inside the square, h6, king to f6, h7, g7, f6 we check, king captures, f7, king to g7, and now when the king starts to move, same idea, b4, a3, and it's game over. So let's go back to our game. We said after f5, great idea to sacrifice the knight on f5. Instead, here comes king to d6, h5, king to e5 inside the square, h6, king to f6, king to f3, and notice that when the white player advances the pawn, black moves the king inside the square. When it's the king that is moving, now it's time to advance with the pawns on the queen side because there is no time to lose. So here comes b4, king to e4, a3, g5 we check, king to f7, h7, and after knight to g6, controlling h8, this is a great idea and Carlsen resigns. Why? Because even after f captures on g6 we check, the king will not recapture. We'll just move to g7, blocking everything, and so even with the help of the king, this pawn can't move. So king to d3, attacking the pawns, but here comes a2, and it's game over because the king can't reach the pawn. So a nice game in my opinion, also with a nice endgame. I will keep posting the best games from the Fischer Random World Championship, and in the next days I will also post games from the European Team Championship. Our analysis is over, thank you very much for watching and see you soon. Goodbye!